Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. In the Gospel of Matthew, it is an angel who tells Joseph to marry Mary even though she is pregnant, and an angel later warns him to take the child and Mary and flee to Egypt to escape Herod killing the babies in Bethlehem. And it is then an angel who tells him when it is safe to return to Nazareth. In all the excitement around Jesus being born and the wise men coming to visit, we might have overlooked the role angels play in the story, and the even more amazing part of how Joseph paid attention to them. I sometimes wonder at all God must have to do to get our attention. Joseph seemed open and ready to follow God's direction. This week we are talking all about angels, and today our particular focus is on the angels of the New Testament. Maybe you've never realized just how often angels appear in the New Testament or the important roles they play. Let's run a quick list of their activities. I have already mentioned how Matthew describes angels involved with Joseph during the birth of Jesus. But the Gospel of Luke begins with an angel appearing to Zechariah to tell him that he will have a son who will become John the Baptist. Then the archangel Gabriel appears to Mary to tell her how she will bear Jesus. And of course, when Jesus is born, we have an angel telling the shepherds, and then the sky filled with a whole host of angels singing their praises to God. I think heaven just couldn't contain the excitement of what God was doing in Jesus and had to burst out and proclaim it. The Gospel of Mark, along with others, speaks of Jesus enduring temptation in the wilderness, and after the devil left him, describes how angels came and ministered to and took care of Jesus. In a similar way, Luke tells us that while Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane about his impending crucifixion and death, that an angel appeared to Jesus and strengthened him. When the resurrection happens, angels are all over those events too. It was an angel who rolled away the stone, not to let Jesus out, but so that the disciples could get in and see that Jesus wasn't there. Some Gospels describe one angel and others two speaking to the women and telling them the news of Jesus' resurrection. During his ministry, Jesus spoke often of angels as well, describing their joy in heaven at repentant sinners, or speaking of things they will do when God comes in power. At the ascension, as the disciples stare up into heaven after Jesus, two angels appear to tell them that Jesus will one day return. Not long after that, the apostles were preaching about Jesus, and the religious leaders had them arrested and thrown in jail. That night, as they awaited trial, an angel came, opened the doors, and led the apostles out and back to the Temple Mount so that they could continue to preach. The apostles were arrested again, and when they reminded that they were told not to speak about Jesus, they answered, "We must obey God rather than men." It was an angel who appeared to Philip and sent him to tell the news about Jesus to the Ethiopian eunuch. And an angel told Cornelius to send for Peter, and the end result of that story is that Peter learned that the gospel of grace was meant for all people, Jew and Gentile alike. Another time Peter was arrested, and there in his cell an angel bathed in light appeared, opened the locked doors, and led him out past several guards to freedom. This story ends humorously, for when the freed Peter gets to the house where the apostles are hiding from the authorities, he knocks on the door, and a woman named Rhoda comes to the door, and when she learns it is Peter, she is so excited she runs to tell the apostles, but forgets to open the door for Peter to come in. The Apostle Paul had much to say about angels in his writings, referring to them often, especially as creatures who praise God and do God's will. The author of Hebrews tells us that God made humans to be just a little lower than the angels, something that speaks of how valuable we are to God, and then later speaks of how we are to be kind to others because some in so doing have unknowingly entertained angels. Maybe in times when someone has done a needed special kindness for us, we have felt that we have been visited by an angel ourselves. John's vision of God's glory in Revelation is chock full of angels as well. The New Testament view of angels is that they are active agents of God, going about doing God's will and shaping things for God's kingdom. Joseph paid attention. Maybe we should too. You never know when one might speak. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.